I have a kind of soft voice, so I'm trying to use that microphone as much as possible. And it was just warm-hearting to hear Vicky's introduction. So today, the program has a title of Kodai 21. What does that mean? What I thought about. It could be Kodai in 2021, it could be Kodai in the 21st century. So who was Kodai? You all know, I'm sure, Kodai. Music pedagogue from Hungary, but he was much more than just a music pedagogue. He started out as a linguist, and then musicologist, pianist, cello player, and then pedagogue, composer, you know all the list. Now, most of the time when I ask colleagues what does Kodai mean to them, then they say, oh, that's sofa system, then that hand signs and whatever. But there are so much more to Kodai system than just these adapted methodologies. So I would like to show you one beautiful program that I was a part of it back in Hungary while studying at the Academy of Music in Budapest. This shows a beautiful branch of the Kodai philosophy. There are many different ways to apply this concept. This is one of them which addresses musicians' health. Kodai himself lived a very healthy lifestyle. He hiked, he ice skated, he learned his scores by walking on the outdoors. So he showed example as well as did some more further steps in order to help musicians in their wellness. So the very first one that I will show it to you, it's an 8-minute summary of how this physical wellness program is built in Hungary based upon the Kodai philosophy. The first slide is just a colorful, beautiful picture from University of Evansville where I taught a seminar. And the next one will be the video.
In Hungary, the research in the health education of musicians was launched at the Ferenc Liszt Academy of Music in 1959. Zoltán Kodály, the great Hungarian composer, initiated researches into the problems of the physical condition of students and artists in order to prevent increasing occupational hazards. Dr. Géza Kovács, scientific researcher of the Hungarian College of Physical Education, was appointed for the task. Over a period of several years, he developed a new branch of pedagogy, the method that bears his name, the maintenance of musical work capacity. The Kovács method is a new domain of music pedagogy, specifically elaborated for the needs of pupils and adults engaged in music making, which can be integrated in music teaching and everyday professional practice. The Kovács method is a lifestyle, workout and a body of factual knowledge in natural sciences, aimed to help musicians to cope with the mental and physical strains of the profession and to avoid occupational hazards. Dr. Géza Kovács earned several highly commended state awards for his scholarly achievements. After his death, his work was continued by his colleague and co-author, Dr. Zsuzsa Pásztor, music pedagogue, who currently teaches the Kovács method at the Liszt Academy of Music and the Loránd Eötvös University of Science. important field of health education is the music school. The Kovács method involves music teachers in the tasks of health education. Thus, pupils will get hold of musical training with physical education from the beginning. The physical training program is an organic part of music lessons. Children continue to apply the correct method learnt during the music lessons in their home practice. They do not start their classes only by practicing their scales and finger drills, but warm up the whole body by physical exercises. The series of exercises is adjusted by the teacher to the individual requirements of each student and is recorded in his or her assignment book. Vigorous exercise provides for powerful blood circulation and breathing. It loosens muscles and improves the general state of health, while brightening up attention and cheering up the spirits. In the course of practice, we should never wait until the signs of fatigue present themselves, for tiredness signals the energy deficit of cells and tissues. Straining work while we are tired will cause health hazards. Therefore, practice should be divided into short segments, according to the student's individual needs. In the intervals between the different segments of study, the students are employed in active rests involving the whole body. The right dosage of physical exercise improves oxygen and nutrient supply, stimulates cell metabolism, and thus helps exhausted organs and tissues to regenerate. After this mobile relaxation, mental and physical activity increases, work becomes more efficient, and the time allowed for rest pays off. Thus, we can avoid strain as well. Developed for beginners, this movement program loosens the hand, strengthens the trunk, improves posture, improves breathing, develops stamina, improves movement coordination in such a way as to make playing the instrument easier and more successful. The workload of students produces a quantum leap at secondary schools in both general subjects and musical tasks. Simultaneously, the time allowed for regeneration decreases. The disturbance of the normal equilibrium between work and rest leads to fatigue. At secondary school age, the danger of occupational hazards is amplified. However, damage can be prevented by fundamental training aimed at developing the physical and nervous endurance of students. The students at risk are consulted individually on home training as well as on the correct practicing methods and lifestyle. Students of the teacher training and artist training departments of the Music Academy can take up the Kovács method as an optional subject. The main parts of the training program include the anatomy and physiology of the human body while making music, the risks of the profession, the correct practicing methods, the ways of surmounting excessive stage fright, the prevention of exhaustion and strain, the improvement of physical fitness, the attainment of nervous stability, and the tasks of healthy musical lifestyle. The physical stamina of students is maintained by a workout, which pays regard to both the professional requirements and the student's individual needs and actual state of health, and even to the environmental conditions, such as the micro and macroclimatic characteristics and other aspects of the place. At postgraduate level, the Kovács method is taught at the Loránd Eötvös University of Sciences in Budapest to music teachers who can take a special examination in this knowledge. Students are provided with theoretical and practical training and can carry on individual research in topics related with the Kovács method. The most important aspect of teacher training today is to develop a modern scientific approach to education. The number one instrument in music is the human system, so both teacher and artist have to know their system, just like their instrument, and need to take good care of it to make it work well. If a musician wants to achieve good performance, he must foremost provide the human conditions. Due to university training, the Kovács method is utilised in several music schools in the country. We're still at the beginning of the road, but we hope that the youth educated in the spirit of this method stand a good chance of avoiding occupational hazards and making music in an easier and healthier way.
Thank you for listening. I was part of this program for 10 years before I came to the United States, and I have to tell you that without this experience, I wouldn't be a harpist in my life. So it was a critical part of my education at the Academy of Music. As you saw in this beautiful video program, this Kovács method exercise program is designed from lesson day one in music education throughout the academic to the end of our music work, where teachers teach their little students. So that's also a wonderful carry on of the Kodály concept, the systematic performance. So, based on this beautiful video, I hope you got inspired. So let's do a little exercises with balloon. The first thing that I usually teach my students regarding warm-up, that there are 5 basic exercises that they can do away from their instrument to warm up the entire body. So one is arm exercise, second one is leg exercise, third one is torso, the fourth one is some kind of exercise that deepens your breathing, and the fifth exercise is winding down. If you do this exercise routine, maybe 3 to 5, max 7 minutes, it depends on many details, and then your whole body is warmed up and ready for beautiful instrument playing. So let's do just very simple exercise. Raise your balloon and down. As tall as you can be as you raise your balloon. Good one. You take your own speed and you do it as many times as it feels good to you. Now, a leg exercise. It's a very simple, again, the simplest exercise. Let's use our knee. So, first two exercise. Stand the shoulder width apart with your feet, and then hold your balloon and follow the balloon with your eyes as you turn one direction and then the other direction. Follow it with your eyes. Good work. Now, get a little more air, deeper, you know. There are several exercises, and then you need to know what you are capable of doing. For example, I show you an exercise, but be careful with your knees. So, yeah, if you want to. Yes, it's good enough if you just bend your knees. You don't need to put this down. Good one. And then the last one is winding down. It can be a breathing exercise or any light exercise with your head. For example, just blow. I understand with your mask it's hard to blow. Then maybe we can find another exercise. Look at this. We can just bounce it. Beautiful. And then trade your head. Thank you so much. Many times students come to lesson, they say after attending school all day that I don't know whether I can make this lesson. And then we get out the balloon, do these exercises, of course variations of these exercises, and in 3 minutes they smile and be ready to go and do the work in the music lesson. Please have a seat. Beginning of the lesson.
Like not in the middle or towards the beginning.
You know, this is warm-up exercise.
Okay.
And then I see, whether we need to take a break. Then we do these exercises that helps them to take a break. So in my presentation, I will show you a couple of examples that I do with students. So we saw his little finger bending, only you could see it. What do we do with this little finger that is bending so hard? Let me show you what I did. This is what we did. On the first picture, you see our exercise. So we bounce the balloon with fingertips. That is easy, not as hard to hit like the piano keys. And then do a little rhythm exercise on each finger. And then we did painting with fingertips, just water paint in a lesson. So that was our exercise for the lesson. And in 6 months, look at his finger. Amazing progress what he made. There has not been any problem with his fingers anymore, and he's still playing the piano. Now, here we go, another picture, a harpist hand. Look at those fingers. A lot to correct on this finger position. Very similar to what we did with the piano player's hand. Here we go, another precious little. And Joan asks, now, do we do these exercises at the beginning of the lesson? Yes, and then look at her. Here was something that didn't please her, obviously. So we just stood up, did maybe 2 or 3 exercises, and then look at the next. Now, we get the corrected version. Obviously, she is satisfied with her playing. And all it took just 2 or 3 exercises without discussing anything, what went wrong. And then I had a student who broke his leg, obviously, you look at it. So what do? Do we stop piano lessons? Do we stop working? Oh no. He's in wheelchair, and then we put the balloon on leash and exercised. So life goes on, and we were able to continue our work. So it was a beautiful example again. This little girl is playing the flute, but what I am showing you this picture is that balance exercises are a critical part of this exercise routine. Just a beautiful example. Okay, I used to go to Guadalajara, Mexico to teach summer courses. Here you go, Kodai. So, here we go. These pictures show our work together when we worked in a classroom, we exercised, and then look at this picture. It just shows the joy of this workout that brings a smile to everybody's face, absolutely beautiful. So we talked about warm-up, we talked about taking breaks, correcting hand positions, just a whole list what you can do with these exercises. And I asked Sarah to help me out to demonstrate a little bit how I would recommend establishing certain movements, physical movements that we use in instrumental playing away from the instrument that we can learn. So do we have a button? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I already showed you one exercise. One of my students named it making pancakes. What does it accomplish regarding our instrumental playing? It accomplishes rotation. How many times we find this physical movement in our pieces of music? But I teach this rotation to my students from the very beginning, and by the time they get to a piece of music where they have to use rotation, they don't even notice how they use this movement. Otherwise, it would take several months to teach them at the piano. But away from the piano, you can establish this movement, and it's fun. Let's see. Beautiful work, look at her. So let me show you, yes. And then try to teach these exercises to do them with the smallest effort. So students start out with vague motions, but then how much bouncing we need just so we can turn our hands. Is that right? Another exercise, independency of fingers. It's a big deal to teach students independency of fingers. So here we go, a little exercise. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Beautiful. Good. Always try to make sure that you do the opposite position as well in these exercises. So now face with the palm towards the floor, and then exercise 5-finger exercises.
Good exercise. I'm going to be using this for myself and my students.
Yes. Independency of arms. Again, a very important physical movement. We can teach them a whole variety of exercises like palm and the back of the hand. Palm on the back of the hand.
You can tell I never played basketball.
And always relax
And
and
then
bounce.
fingers.
Yes. And then we exercise coordination between hands and the leg, which is critical playing the harp, critical playing the piano, critical in every instrument, because with this they do pause, and so on. So coordination of arms and legs are critical. So it's time. Very important. Hey, who's happy to
I'll have to practice that one.
Yeah, so just a few ideas that what can be done away from the instrument that benefit the student, and we can save time and energy at the instrument, learning to sing exercises. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad Sarah's the president and not Vicky.
I want to show you a little segment, one of which is about an exercise, and the other one is piano. There is a couple named Dirk and Marta Coulthard, piano players, probably know him. He's the most well-known composer of these days in Thank you. So he's the most well-known composer in Europe. I studied or I exercised with him in the same group at the Academy of Music, and he coached me on some chamber music, and it's just a breathtaking moment that we can see.
Ecco, Kedves nézők!
You saw this beautiful smile on his wife's face. It's just absolutely beautiful. And then here are 2 minutes of their piano playing that shows the same joy of working together. It's just absolutely breathtaking to me. Any question?
Where was that piano, where was that performance?
The performance was in Carnegie Hall.
Carnegie.
Yes, yes. And they are in their 90s and more, and they are still exercising. So that's, again, Kodai's philosophy. Yeah. Any questions? I know it's hard to break this beautiful moment, but would be glad to answer questions. Yes?
What about you every day? Do you do a lot of the balloon work, or do you just, are you a member of the Y and you work out, or what do you do with your exercise?
You know, as you saw in the first video, there are exercises that are designed for personal use. So I do exercise at home, and as much as possible, you know. And these days, what is really warm-hearted to me is that they have these classes back at the Academy of Music in Hungary, and they do it on Zoom. So now, twice a week, I can be back to my home country with the colleagues that I know, and we exercise twice a week together on Zoom.
Is your mother doing that to you?
No, Mama cannot do these exercises. I try to encourage her, and she does some exercise. We walk on our driveway 15 minutes per day when the weather permits, and try to do some exercises indoors. But she thinks this is for musicians.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you think, anybody who works by sitting, just like musicians, for certain parts of our bodies are very extensively working, and some of them are neglected in this sitting position. So it's the same thing when people work on computer. They are sitting long hours by their instrument and working intensively with their fingers, bad posture, no breathing, So they could benefit from these exercises the same way as musicians do. Any questions?